two data centers, one in Portland, one in Heritage. They replicate the VM farms that we have. We have a farm at each location. We use Dell hosts. They're dual quad-core servers. VMware cluster of 4 servers at the Portland location and 3 at Heritage. We use the NetApp 3140s, and those were our new investment. And between those 2 farms, we have 203 virtual machines. Okay? We have 100 meg internet pipe, and we have gigabit to the desktops. Our end users, as I mentioned, we have a combination of laptops and desktops. For the PC side, we're running XP and Windows 7. For the Macs, we're running 10.6. We roll out our software to our PC users using SCCM, and to our Macs using Casper. Okay. So as we went through and determined, and we were putting everything together, we were picking our components that we needed. There was a lot of testing that went on with gateways and solutions and what did we need, and so these were all the solution providers that we've been out working with. So obviously 3CX. We have a license for the 256 simultaneous call with call center. VoIP Toys, which is Infosys, Matthew and Samuel up here. We dealt with them from a consulting basis and configuration questions. We also purchased support for our 3CX. So we can call and we had conversations with Kevin and Malta multiple times. We chose to go with the SNOM phones. We got the 821s. And we chose those for a couple reasons. Number one, they were color, which wasn't the big deal, but they had gigabit built in. And we were delivering gig to the desktop, so to us, it was worth that investment to do that. That was the one that we landed on. We had GrandStream. We bought from them our analog gateways. So we have 5 GrandStream analog gateways. So each one is 24 port. So if you do the math, about 120 ports for analog devices. We bought packing 4960s. We've got 3 of those, 1 at each location. They're 4-port packings, and all 8 ports are being used. We do have a 3rd one that we've got on standby for testing, and just in case one of the other ones poops out, we've got something to put in place right away. We also had we needed an audio codes gateway, because one of the requirements for our call center was to have answering machine detection when they were doing dialing. And the audio codes gateway actually does that. It's built in. So that's why we've got one of those. So there's a PRI going just to that audio codes for those outbound dials for that answering machine detection. From a soft phone perspective, for headphones, we landed on Jabra. We did a lot of testing with headphones and microphones between Jabra and Plantronics, and we also looked at some SNOM headphones too. Jabra tend to have, in our opinion, they had a better sounding headset. The microphones didn't run as hot, and we have monaural, binaural, and wireless headsets. Most people have the either monaural or binaural. The wireless were kind of exceptions for key people, likely executives. And then Polycom. We have about 18 conference room phones, the Polycom Star models. So we had between the 5,000 and the 6,000 VoIP models for Polycom. So that's where we landed with those. So the details of our 3CX server. It's one server. It's virtualized and it's centralized at our Portland building. Okay? It's running on Windows 2008 R2. We're running version 10 with SP5. We haven't upgraded to 6 yet. The C drive is 60 gigs. That holds the OS and logs. And then our D drive is 100 gig, and we use that for voicemail and recording storage. Okay? 4 gig of RAM. We currently use about 2 gig at all times. And we also have it configured to use 4 processors that are 2.9 gigahertz, and we use about 70% of that with our current load. It runs pretty steady, 70% during the day. So we had some gotchas. We had some 3CX gotchas and some non-3CX gotchas. The first one was something that we probably could have avoided, the Abyss IIS. When you're deploying 3CX, you've got the choice of using the Abyss database or IIS, or web service, excuse me. And we missed it somehow that when you go over 25 users, you should switch to IIS. Don't ask me how, because I don't know. But they one, when we rolled out Portland, everything went game over. Within 5 minutes, we were shutting that server down, and we were increasing its server capacity because we originally started off with 2 gig of RAM, 1 CPU dedicated. So we upped the RAM to 4 gig, we added a second processor, brought it back up, still experienced the same thing as people started to come online. We finally landed on 4 CPUs and 4 gig, and that seemed to be the right mix for us from a system hardware perspective. But ultimately, we ended up having to switch to Abyss later on that night. We had to export out of, or I'm sorry, to IIS. We had to export out of Abyss and import it to IIS. And once we did that, the CPU usage came down to about the 70% level, and that's where it's hung ever since. So that covered the server capacity as well. DID limits, we ran into that. Because of our configuration, we were trying to, when we implemented, we wanted to coexist. So we had to straddle between our old Avaya and the new 3CX. So in doing that, we had some PRIs set up at the Heritage site, some set up at the Portland site, and we ran into some limits. So I think by default, the limit DID that you can add in there is either 1,500 or 2,000. Well, we got to a certain point we couldn't enter anymore. So we were on the phone with Kevin in Malta, and he showed us what we needed to change, and now I think our limit